Hey guys, welcome back to the American Horror Story Show. So, guys, this is an amazing part of this part two of the American Horror Story series. Now, as you guys know, episode two, which is titled Rockabye, is probably my most interesting episode. Like I said in my previous video, I did mention that episode 2 Rockabye is a very interesting part. I went into some small details with this episode. Now, one thing I could definitely say about this episode that stood out is that there's a level of scariness that went on in this episode that focused so much on Anna Alcott's character and her surroundings, how her surroundings are literally morphing into her worst nightmare. She in the first couple of the episode one as well as first part of the episode two, we saw that she was trying to plan to, gain a family and stuff like that. And as we got into episode two, she started freaking out about the whole thing. She even almost stabbed her husband. She was really panicking, and the husband, like I said, like I previously mentioned in my previous video, I still don't trust him. Like, even with everything that has been going on, he feels kind of like unsurprised about a lot of things that's been going on with her. You know, um, every time something dramatic that happens to her, he feels kind of off on everything that's been going on with his wife, which is strange. So later part of the episode, we saw that they went to the doctor. They started looking at the sonogram about the baby. Then we get introduced to Dennis O'Hare's character, um, the doctor. His name I think probably Dr. Vale or something like that, and he started talking to Anna and talking about, like, take care of herself. She has to eat and she has to, like, normally regular checkup that what doctors regular do, right? And then as we get further on, we started seeing, like, he started asking questions. It felt very off throughout the whole conversation between Anna and the doctor, and how each of the cast, how they portray each of their characters. I felt like it was very interesting, and how even for her, Anna, she's kind of like slightly shocked about everything that has been going on, and that, getting some feedback from just, learning from what has happened with her, having these episodes of her post pregnancy. The Dennis O'Hare's character is saying that, this is perfectly normal. A lot of things happen in their clinic. You should not be too surprised. It's a lot of stuff that I think, a lot of red flags, I would definitely say, that points out in this episode. I did mention in the previous part of the episode, part one, when I was covering Delicate episode two, that there's a lot that has happened in the later stage of the episode, mentioning, certain things that Anna has found that, you know normally you as a regular person would definitely freak out. And some things started being planted, you know in the season, you know and as she goes further on, they started talking about, just take care of yourself, do what you gotta do. And then we got into the next part of the episode, which Shaban, which plays by Kim Kardashian's character, they started talking about, she got some new dress, and I think they're going to, like, an award show, which is the Gotham Award, right? And she said that, if she doesn't wear this, she's literally calling herself, like, she's gonna find a way to owe her forever, right? And she brought out a 1991 type of fashion. I think she said that Madonna, like, kind of like wore at one of her shows. And Anna just literally was like, yo, should I, like, pray to this already? And she was like, no, you don't need to do none of that, you know just make sure that you take care of yourself and be yourself and don't act weird. So Anna's feeling as if like Shaban is like literally her best friend, and that she's been riding with her throughout the whole problem. And I'm like, sometimes some scary characters, they tend to make sure that you're so comfortable at a point where when it's time to actually take you down, it's going to be much painful. And I think that's exactly where the route is going. Anna gave Shaban a big hug, and then Shaban was like, definitely it's time for her to like literally surprise Anna, to give her like the dress that she's going to be wearing at the Gotham Award. I think once we got to that part, I definitely felt like more things started happening, and there was a dynamic of duality that was being at play, whereas Shaban is more like this dark fairy godmother, and Anna is like receiving all the blessing, but she doesn't really know where all these are coming from. you know First we saw that like in her text messages, we saw that certain people or certain groups of people are literally after her, and her specifically, by creating even like a baby or stuff like that. So now we're looking at two couple of weeks in her phase, and now she's you know trying out new things to trying to stay normal. They even gave her like some medications, right? And just for a little while we kind of felt like some wholesome moment, right? But we saw things started really escalating real quick when we started seeing that Shaban went out, picked up the box, right, and just showed it to Anna. And Anna's like still in shock, like these are gonna be things that you're gonna wear for this award show, like I mentioned. And as we get further and further on, like something, sometimes some of those creepy elements doesn't scare you right away, but as you get further and further on, you start realizing that there's a bigger picture at play. Things start really kicking into motion this episode, and I think this was very, very needed, because in past episodes of the previous seasons, we tend to see things are not fully dissect until like the fourth or fifth episode. I think that what I find good about this season, it holds on to its dignity by being true to itself. I think it's because the season have its own novel that is really, really focusing on, and I think that's what makes it a great season, because it has structure. And from previous season, we know that certain things doesn't have that much structure, but it find ways to play the elements of having a structure. I think previous Ryan Murphy works were very excellent, but I think by them doing something a little bit different this season, it brought back the nostalgic of the American Horror Story fan base of what the season should be. And like I said, the dress is like a Madonna thing from 1991 Oscars, and like I mentioned before, Anna felt like she wanted to pray to this. It's always this really weird way of like idolizing previous, things. And she literally like freak out, and she was like, Shaban was like, no, this is not a copy of this, whatever dress this was. It is not even a replica. This is the same one. Sometimes your, how they say, your essence, your energy carries even in your clothes. And we saw that in previous iterations of characters. You may even see that the clothes, everything has a certain meaning of why people wear it. And I think that's no different from what episode 2 was basically telling us. Then she wore it, and like always, she looks very stunning. But as you could see, there's a duality, like I said, that is being played. One side is white, the other side is black, and checkerboards and all that crazy stuff. we tend to see how these, and especially the season itself, focus on the elites, and having one of the elites, which is an actress, and she's best known for certain things, roles, right? Everything falls into a sort of a creepy setting. She tries on shoes, and right before she's like celebrating, and they started singing together and everything, right? And we saw that it's similar to what Apocalypse did, which is symbolizing the Easter egg right in the middle of the season itself. Like, for one, Anna was like, after celebrating, she saw that in the mirror someone or something has wrote that, Anna not to do something. And I think that even calls back to what I said in the first episode, where Apocalypse is something where I find it very dear season, because the element of horror was so there, and it's the same thing as they're walking towards the mirror to look at each other in the mirror. We saw that the element is written plain in sight, and somebody is stopping Anna from doing anything further to not either jeopardize herself or jeopardize herself as a human being. But as the celebrants started dancing and partying, we started seeing that Shaban character slightly started revealing herself more and more. And in the mirror, it's things are getting more supernatural in the season, which I actually love, because it actually took its time to get into that element. And we saw further on, the mirror broke, and it was a sign of like bad omenship. So when they got to like the Gotham Awards, right, Anna's dressed up, and then there's like a small little actress that I guess approach her and congratulates her and say, like, I was always wanted to be like you when I grew up. Let's share this spotlight moment together. And Anna's like those, like that old veteran artist, and she's like, that's good, like, thank you for, like, she's flattered. And I think as they like take pictures together and everything, something felt very uneasy once they got to the award. And I think this is where the episode shined, because once they got to the award, things started rapidly happening. And I think that everything started going down spiral. Taking a picture, and then all that fame and energy of that, sometimes that could actually harm you instead of actually gain you like points. And I think that's what the season did, where it shows like the dynamic of one person is falling whereas the next person is rising. And then once they got to the setting, I think, like, I also wanted to mention to, like, the setting of the show is the tone and the color palette that they use for this season is very, very good. When they got to the table, they started having a discussion. It was Shaban, her husband, Anna, and I guess one of the directors. And the directors wanted to be smart. He started putting out some personal stuff on the table, and then Anna was not having that. Like, Anna was like, cut the shit. Like, I don't want to hear things about that. And the husband was like, where did you get that information? And Shaban was like, I don't even know this guy. And Shaban was like, stop talking to this guy. And then Anna went off. She said, listen, do not mess with me at this moment, all right? And then his face, his face literally changed. And then I guess Shaban got so mad, and Anna felt like kind of very nervous and stressed out. She went to the bathroom, which this is when things started going even more crazier, because she's trying to fix her face, or like, what normally what women do when certain things like that happen. And then slowly but surely, she started like, finding something that's wrong with her, and then somebody sneaked up on behind her, and she said, oh my god, like, your name is Anna Elcott, like, I'm a big fan and all that stuff. And at first she didn't want to shake her hand, because, like, I guess her hands were very sweaty, this person's character. and she just didn't want to really look at her as much. And she said, "Oh, you must be nervous. I'm nervous too. Like, we could literally count ourselves as like twinsies, because I guess they were wearing the same shoes." And I think that was all the elements of like awkwardness and like creepiness, because it's like you don't even know this person. Here's this person approaching you, and now at first she's looking at her face, and then now it's like this like hallucination where her face started peeling off, and then the lady in the background is like staring like in awe, like, okay, it's like somebody's planning her downfall. And then she had to like rush to go to the restroom, and she was like, "Oh yeah, let me help you pull your hair." And it's like, nobody didn't ask you to help me. And then right before she's helping her, she pull I guess she put her hands on her stomach, like, just to feel like the child. Like, that's another creepy thing. Like, if you have a wife and she's pregnant, do not let nobody touch her stomach. That is something very weird, especially if the person's not family member. That's kind of really creepy. And then when she got back, she hits her, pushed her, I guess, out of rage. She thought like something happened, and she actually started bleeding, right? And then what's creepy is like she felt something bad, like this person's now considered deceased, and then they're in the stall or in the bathroom, and then when she got out, they were like, "Oh, your announcement is gonna start showing up like for best actress and stuff, like your category." And then once she got out, she find out she won for one of her position, right? And then they tell her like to come up to come pick up her award, and she had to like give us, how the award shows always go, but it kind of a creepy look to show like how some award shows could actually set up to other people's downfall or their rise. And then while she's about to give the speech, she's seeing this creepy nurse character while her husband is kissing previous people that he dated, and she's about to have like a whole meltdown, right? And she's thinking if this is going through her head or is this going through spiraling around. And then she started puking out this ooze, like this dark shadow ooze, and it seems like nobody's surprised about it. It's like everybody's just, it felt like very The Shining to me, like nobody was surprised. And it's like, and then when it clipped back to like reality time, she started like puking and stuff like that. And she was like, "Yeah, don't go in there." And then Shaban and her husband are just like putting their head down, like an embarrassing moment for them and then for her. And then they cut black, right? She right back up, right? She started like getting like a feedback of what happened, because she collapsed. And the doctor was like, "Miss Elcott," paging Miss Elcott, "can you feel my, like, feel how many hands am I holding or how many fingers?" And she started like trying to figure out like what happened. And then she was like, the husband was like, "Yeah, you had a whole blackout." And and she was like, "I don't need no like anesthetic or something like that. Like, can you just tell them that?" Basically, they gave her like a shot to like calm down, because she was being very hyper and hyperventilating, right? And then they gave her the shot to calm down. And then next thing you know, she woke up next to Shaban. Like, now suddenly Shaban is like taking care of her, which is even more like weird to me. And Shaban's like telling her like, "Don't feel bad about it. Like, I gave you a break, so relax. Like, don't overthink things, but at the same time, try your best to not do anything else." And then she was like, "What happened? Like, I basically blew it. Like, no more Oscars. My one shot to get a Gotham award, and then to move on to the Oscars award, that's blown off." And she was like, "We're gonna pull a I guess a memory swipe card, which is like, let the public forget about what happened, and if anybody asks you, show them that you're basically the one that's crazy, not her." And that went on to the further on in the episode where she wanted to show like what happened. And even in the text messages, it shows like in real time, like TMZ and all these things. So This is giving us a background of how certain celebrities live their lives, and how, the post mortem of fame or even gaining a child in the public's eye could be something terrifying, but it also shows the element of horror of anything that could go wrong throughout people's lives, and how interesting this season is very interesting. That's all I could say. And then we got further on into the episode, started seeing that Anna started taking like a yoga class. She started stretching to like relieve stress, like things that she normally do on her day-to-day things before she was pregnant. She started doing them again just to feel like at ease. I think the jump scare went even further on when she got back to the doctor to get a checkup after what happened. They wanted to double check. This mysterious doctor that is played by Cara Delevingne shows up, um, started looking at her, the, Sarah, what's that thing called? The super, ultrasound to look at the baby and everything. And Anna's asking like, "Oh, can I see my child? I had a sonogram like the day before. Now I'm having one again by the previous doctor." She was like, "No, I'm just a nurse. I'm just gonna double check everything, and then once everything, the doctor will be right with you," which is, normal procedure, right? But she started like having like a breakdown. She kind of like, when you're a person that's like in tune with yourself, right, you tend to like kind of like feel when something is wrong. And I think Anna started feeling that, and this said, which was a very emotional part of the episode, to so she that, some people that goes through, especially women that goes through losing a child and trying to plan a whole family, that sometimes is a very devastating moment, to realize that you can't carry a child and something goes wrong, that could take a toll upon a woman. And she had like this, I would say, this type of memory where she's like had the child, she's celebrating, and this felt like very midsummer to me, because the color is very desaturating. It's like a sun desaturating color, and then all the other colors are very vivid and front forward. And it's like it felt very good, but it felt like something's gonna go wrong, but you just don't know when. This is what this part of the episode felt like. She's going around, she's lifting the baby up, she's like, being regular, and then suddenly we start seeing like, the celebration like started going very vivid, like, when something going further back and further back, it's like it's spacing out somehow. And it cuts right back into her like getting back into her mental state, and like realizing like, did I had the child already, or did I just lost the child? Like, this was a realization moment. It's like, what has happened? And I think, that was a very sad and interesting part of the season, because she started feeling it like heavenly, like she started feeling like this happened. And then suddenly doctors came in, the actual doctors, and they were like, you know and then she asked her husband like, where the heck were you? And he was like, he had to pick up some stuff or something like that. And then she mentions that, well, she already has an ultrasound. She said, Dr. Vivian or whoever it was, went to double check. And then we got a little flashback, right? The flashback literally shows like the doctor's the one that actually messed her up with whatever weapon that she used, and she wasn't a real doctor. The Claire Delevingne's character wasn't the real nurse or doctor that works at this hospital. And that was the scary part for me. He's like, okay, we just letting anybody in this building, and now this person has committed, homicide. And now what's scary is that we don't know where this person is, and you can't track that person because They dressed just like a nurse or a doctor. And she started like playing it back in her head, which was probably my most interesting part of the episode. But if you guys like how I described the whole scene, please like and subscribe to the channel as we get further down to episode 3 and episode 4. Like and subscribe to my channel. I am your host, Sleepy Celestial, and thank you guys for episode 2. Signing out.